I really am losing my mind. Hello, all the crazy people out there. My name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games, and apparently I like making games so much that I'm going to be using both Unity and GameMaker for this project from here on out. Let's talk about the Unity importer. So for reasons that I have described several times in the past, I'm not going to be going into too much detail about how the Unity script I wrote to save the contents of a level to a file and load it in GameMaker works. But the long and short of it is that if I just run the Unity scene, I have a little compiler script which will run automatically, and it will iterate over every object in the Unity scene, and it will save it to a file. I can play around with this a little. So you see, I've set up like a jungle gym over here of sorts. We've got some things for climbing on. If I were to just drag one of these out and do a little bit more level design, let's see. How would I let's create like a big platform up made of a few of these bridge things. So I've enabled it so that you can rotate and move, rotate and translate objects in the editor here. Scaling is something that could be implemented, but I don't really want to because it will make the collisions weird. But if you have like textures scaled up or down without having any like special code to tessellate your textures or anything like that, it tends to look pretty weird, and I don't want to have that look pretty weird. So let me just rotate that a little bit, and I can like create a slope over these bridges. What if I let's say move this up in the air and rotate that a little bit? Rotation should work. I did a fair amount of testing on this. I got to spend quite a bit of time dealing with things like the handedness of coordinate systems, which wasn't a lot of fun. Oops. But rotation should work on both the y-axis and all the other axes, if that is necessary. So if I were to run this Unity scene right now like this, save it on this test map, and open up the project in GameMaker, I should be able to just run the project in GameMaker and have everything good to go. So I've got a little bit of GameMaker code called Unity map import, and that is this. It's not very complicated. We're just going to index all of the names of the 3D models in the scene, all the textures, and then we're going to iterate over every object that was saved, and then give it its position, its rotation, and attach it to its model and texture. And if I were to run the game now, which will take a moment, you'll notice that the world is mirrored along the, I believe that's the x-axis. Yeah, I mentioned the handedness of coordinate systems being a bit of a pain, and Unity, I believe, wants to use a right-handed coordinate system. I want to use a left-handed one, and making those play nicely together, particularly with collisions, is a bit of a nuisance. So I decided that I'd just be designing my levels in a like a mirror image of each other. Anyway, we can see that this works fairly well. Collisions work. I can climb up these slopes. These are all angled at different directions, and collision with the slopes still works properly. I can't climb onto them because these slopes don't have like a climb target, but I won't anticipate needing that. And of course, there's this pile of junk over here, mostly test objects, and none of them like do anything. Like the barrel, you can't interact with it. You can climb on the crates, but I don't think any of the other objects have a climb target. Also, these like lantern things have the wrong texture, or they don't have any texture rather. All right, this world is very yellow. I think that's because the light that I've defined is like completely yellow, and it's not white. I've also wrote a little bit of code to like draw the collision shapes themselves. This was very helpful when trying to figure out like where the collision shape should be and when they weren't where they should be, like how to get them where I wanted them to be. If you hold the F1 key down in gameplay mode right now, you'll be able to debug draw the collision shapes. You can also see some of the special objects like the climb targets. The player and other derivations of the NPC class will not, at least not currently, have their collision shapes being debug drawn, but that should be okay for. That should be fairly useful for like figuring out where my level geometry is, and is that interesting? Is that worth talking about? That's just I've loaded a test sphere and a test block vertex buffer, nothing fancy. And if you're holding down the F1 key, we're just going to transform those the same way that the collision shapes would have to be transformed, and the cube and the sphere will be drawn where appropriate. What else? Hopefully, I won't have to touch any of this for the rest of this this project. Hopefully, like, obviously I'll have to work a little bit more on the map import, because I do want to be able to do things like define, you know, treasure chests with specific contents in Unity over here, and define, like, doors which lead you to different maps and that kind of thing in Unity. And I will be writing a little bit of extra code to make that happen. I'm picturing like slapping another script component onto various special objects like doors or treasure chests or spell interactables or NPCs or that sort of thing, and the compile script will export any of those relevant properties as well. But hopefully all the messing around with collision positions and that sort of thing I won't really have to play with anymore. Some of this could be made slightly more efficient. Like instead of having to multiply the shapes, rotation, and translation matrices together to position them, if you could pre-compute that, like up here, that would make updating a collision position slightly more efficient. We'll see how much of a problem that actually becomes. I don't foresee having many objects that are all being updated all at the same time besides the player. Like, I'm not going to have that many, you know, moving platforms in the game at once and that kind of thing.
Hey.
I think this works pretty well for now. So I don't really have anything that I want to, I don't even have Codecks open. I don't really have anything that I want to do in this video other than show that and talk a little about what's gonna get done next. I suppose I could, I move this card to my hand and then mark it as done. Is that how this works? Alright, that's how this works. I do want to talk a little bit about the art style of this game. I'm currently undecided on what I want to do for that. I could, all these test objects that I have right now, the blocks, the barrels, and that sort of thing, these are like pixel art on 3D, like PlayStation 1 quality pixel art on 3D, and that certainly is an option if you all want to see something like that. I haven't bothered Moon and my art friend about, you know, doing more stuff for this game. He did a bunch of 3D art for some of the previous games that I did YouTube series on. He's got a lot going on, and I don't want to bother him about like even more stuff on top of Wizardex at the moment. But if you all want to see pixel art, I would look into that. The other option, well, there's really two other options. One which I don't really want to do is to either like use the Kenny assets again, like use free 3D assets for this game like I did before. I've done 2 games like that, and I don't really want to do it a third time. Or I could actually like go out and spend money on 3D game assets. There's a lot of them out there. I don't really want to do that because then I wouldn't really be able to put those files on GitHub because, you know, the people who make paid assets don't really want their stuff out on the internet for free, and I would get in a lot of trouble for that. And another option would be for me to actually hand draw all my own textures and everything like that. I'm not opposed to that. That would, of course, take a little bit of time, but I'm not a pixel artist. I'm not even a real artist, like a real artist of any kind, but I do have a bit of fun pulling out the drawing tablet and, you know, doing those silly comics once in a while. And a valid course of action for the art style for this game would be for me to draw all the textures myself to look something like that. And to be honest, I kind of want to do that because it would be fun, but it also would take, you know, some amount of extra time. And there are trade-offs. NPCs and characters especially, like having to like draw walk cycles for NPCs from like multiple directions, or especially like climbing animations and spellcasting animations and damage animations and that sort of thing. That would take a really long time. But I'm not opposed to doing it. So food for thought. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Is there anything else? This really was intended to be the wrap-up video for basic gameplay. There are 2 outstanding cards, the Entity Render Loop and the Fake Shadows. The Fake Shadows I decided I would hold off on until a later time. I'll probably, almost certainly, get to them eventually, but just not right now. Because projecting the player's shadow downwards in a view space ended up being a little bit more annoying than I wanted it to be. And the Entity Render Loop, I won't check that off until we actually have, you know, more objects in the game to be rendered. I could probably justify marking that as complete right now, but I don't want to. Next time, I'm going to be moving on to magic gameplay. So we'll start by creating some, like a spell object that you can cast, and it'll do a ray cast in front of you when you hit the spell cast button. And that will probably be a video on its own, and I will, after that, kind of go down the line, implementing different spell types, as well as things they can interact with. So, you know how it goes. Do I have this old game bookmarked in my taskbar? Can I just pull up Chamber of Secrets real quick? So, you know the drill. I'm not going to be ripping off this game like completely perfectly, but I will be doing a lot of similar spells, familiar looking spells if you've ever played it. That will create a bounce tile. Did I put that on the list? I don't remember. There is, of course, good old Flipendo, which will knock things over, hit buttons and that kind of thing. It also doubles as a combat spell. Not entirely sure how I'm going to deal with that, but I'll sleep on that more as the game goes on. Other spells, you know, Alahamora, everyone's favorite, Open Locks, and Lumos, which can reveal hidden things, and probably a few more that I'll just make up as we go on. A lot of these are also spells that I have done in some capacity in Wizardex. We'll see how long this takes. We'll see how much I have time for, and if I get through this and feel like adding a few more spells, I will. I will come up with a few crazier ones. I think as for the Milestone, the magic gameplay is due tomorrow as I originally planned it. Yeah, I missed a bunch of weeks when I was finishing up 3D Collisions, so still a little bit behind. Try and play a little bit of catch up. If I can maybe finish that by like the middle of October, 6 weeks or so, I feel like that would be a good goal to hit. Oh, and I also moved some of the cards from a later deck to magic gameplay just because it made sense in my head to work on these at the same time. I want to have other interactions that aren't directly related to spells, such as a floor button / pressure plate that you can stand on and make things happen. That's a bit of a staple for me in terms of level and puzzle design. And again, I'm sure there will be other things. So, let's see, should I start moving magic gameplay cards to my hand? That's kind of exciting whenever you start a new sprint. Let's create a spell object next time. That'll be kind of the first thing we do. Players should keep a list of all the spells that they know. That'll be, I don't have like a save file or player progression system yet, but that'll be related to that. I suspect I will also want to work on spell visuals. Not sure if that'll be the next video or the one that comes after that. That'll probably be a something in the form of a particle system. And entities will have a property determining what kind of spell they can be hit by. And also, let's say, very generally, entities will be able to respond when hit by their respective spell. That won't really come into play until we actually have, like, you know, Flipendo or the unlock spell or whatever, but I'll start to think about that now. And also, I call it auto spell. When you wave your wand at something that can have a spell cast on it, having the spell automatically, you know, show its symbol without the player having to go into the menu and select a spell. I'd like to do that because having to select your spell isn't uncommon in games like this, whether that's like The Legend of Zelda or the console Potter games, but I just find it frustrating to have to constantly go into the menu. So that's going to be next time. This wraps up the basic gameplay section of this series. I think it works pretty well. We can move around. It doesn't feel too jittery. It's not perfectly smooth, but for what it is, I'm happy with the way it came out. If you want the code for this, look for the GitHub repository down in the video description. Yeah, let's tag this as a release. I haven't been remembering to do that, have I? What else? If you want to mess around with the 3D collision system that I'm using here, I will have links to that, and also the 3D model management program, Penguin. Those are both GameMaker tools that I've made in the past that I often find useful. Anyway, I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week. If you're interested in the weird things you can do in GameMaker, feel free to subscribe. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute to the channel, links to that can be found in all the usual places. Otherwise, I hope you all found this interesting, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Army Armbuster, DJ Gibbles, Edward Holt, GameMaker, Manta Ray, Syndra Larson, Squarecrow, Vitro V, and Zenjament for supporting these videos. If you want to contribute to the channel, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.